Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be out there in Steelers Nation, and welcome to episode number 73 of the Steel City Insider podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremy Ritz, alongside Mr. Jim Wexel, and joining us once again, we are truly grateful, Steelers great and current Steelers color analyst, Craig Wolfley is with us. Jim, Wolf, how are you guys doing this fine day?
I'm doing great.
Doing great also, Wex. Doing great. Thanks for having me on yet again.
Well, Wolf, you know why we're having you on. This is episode 73.
Oh, we have numerology going on here.
You're the honorary number 73. We have retired your jersey at Steel City Insider. I don't know what good that'll do you, but
no, but for the moment, just for the moment.
Absolutely.
You know, Wolf, I give you, and Jeremy's idea too, give you all the credit for being number 73, but how about that block number 73 made in the play of the game, play of the preseason? Talk about that play a little bit, Wolf.
You know, the beauty of it is you got Jaylen Warren, first of all, you got Mason Cole, you got Isaac Suamalo, who's now assumed in part of the legacy of 73s there, playing at left guard. Then you got Danny Moore playing left tackle. On the backside, you got James Daniels, you got Chuks Okorafor. Now, the beauty of it is the outside zone has been run every day up at training camp. And the blocking scheme, as the schematics were, they were so basic. It's just simple. You drop a foot, you run towards the sidelines, you get on the track, and, everybody gets their blocks, right? Well, Danny Moore kicks his man out. Then Isaac Samolo, he comes off and he climbs up to the second level. He takes out the linebacker there. Then you got Mason Cole hooking the center like a brook trout. Gadzooks, man. And then you got you got James Daniels on the backside. He gets up, gets his man. And then Chuks does a dive on the back of a guy who's fallen down. Nice job of just kind of like going along with what was going on, sealing the backside. And Jaylen Warren just hits it lickety-split. He goes wang-dang-doodle up the sidelines for a 62-yard run. That's beautiful, but that's a routine play, and it's a routine play made routinely. But it turns spectacular when the guy takes advantage of all the routine plays being made, including Deontay Johnson with a very non-China doll block down the field. So that would be the play of the preseason, if you ask me.
And, Wolf, I got to tell you, and I know you don't like this kind of stuff, but you wrote the column of the preseason. I mean, you dubbed that. You were the one that saw it for what it was, a routine play done routinely.
Well,
I liked it so much. I sent it in. I stole part of it. I used it.
I sent it to you, baby, and you do with it what you want. You're my guy.
I sent it to Steelers Digest, but I mean that Mike Tomlin will be proud to read that story because that was his mantra for this camp. Routine plays done routinely. And boom, you nailed it with the big play, and it sure was routine, and it didn't look routine as it was happening, but when you break it down, it's like, well, and even Jaylen Warren said it after the game, that's the epitome of a blueprint. He goes, this is the play they're going to put up on the board when they want to show you what happens when everyone does their job.
Yes, that's exactly it, Wax. And I also, I went on because I wanted to compare and contrast the two. Earlier in that series, on second down, we had Pickett split out to the left. You had Pickett at quarterback, right? What happens? You got Dane Jackson, the cornerback, up in press on George Pickens. Then all of a sudden, right before the snap, he bails and gives a cushion of probably 8, 9, 10 yards, right? Without hesitation, Pickens goes, and then what wouldn't have been a stop route became a stop route because of the bailout by Jackson. So he runs that little stop route, turns around. Pickett just fires the ball in there, 8 yards. Boom, routine play made routinely. There was no hesitation. There was no anything other than a route that was adjusted on the fly, and that's what we're looking for. Routine plays made routinely. So spot on by you.
So, in what may have been the play of the dress rehearsal that we dubbed it last week, the Steelers do defeat the Bills preseason game 2, 27-15. They're 2-0 in the preseason, preparing for the Falcons. this Thursday, wrapping up the preseason 7:30 game and getting ready for what's right around the corner, the first regular season contest versus the 49ers at home. We talked about the flawless execution of the run blocking on that play with Warren, but there were so many other highlights from this contest to get excited about. And what better place to start than with Kenny Pickett and work our way through the offense and over to the defensive side of the ball. But Pickett continued his solid performance this preseason. Your takes on his game this past weekend?
Okay.
It looks like a continuation of his preseason from last year. I know he's doing it now against the varsity every game, but he owns the preseason, and I'm not saying he doesn't own the regular season. He was just a rookie last year, and I liked everything I saw about him last year, even through the bad times. I was writing that I liked him. I liked his moxie, and that became mocked around the internet by the so-called old school writers. But I've liked him, and I've seen a progression. And I tell you what, in my opinion, this Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren controversy has taken some of the pressure off Kenny Pickett. I think there's a lot of pressure on Najee now, and I think he's going to respond highly motivated in this first game because of what's happened. You know, I talked on Wolf, your show last week. I said that was my concern, was Najee Harris. And then I wrote a column the next day, and then the next day, boom, 62 yards. Now everybody's saying it, except, of course, those old school smart writers that are pshawing it all just on one play, but it's not on one play. But anyway, that we could talk about that later, but I think it's taken pressure off Kenny Pickett. I really do.
You know, it's interesting. That's a good observation, but I also look at this. Kenny Pickett doesn't need the pressure taken off him. The kid is just handling everything so well. I mean, he looks composed. He looks like he knows where he wants to go with the ball all the time. He always looks large and in charge on the field. He doesn't look like he's getting flustered by anything. There's not the crazy timeouts and things of that like that happening where he's in charge. And then you go and you look at what are we seeing? Last year we said, well, he's not throwing down the middle of the field, right? He's throwing down in the middle of the field. He got Pickens for a 30-plus yarder in the first game. Then this second game, he hits Freiermuth on another beauty of a 25-yarder down the seam. And the best part about that throw, if you look at it from the end zone, there's Matt Milano, who's a pretty deadgum good linebacker, and underneath coverage, you got two converging safeties over the top. He throws the ball where you literally have to adjust around, as Freiermuth had to adjust to that ball and put it where it was safe from Milano. He didn't have to go over the top of Milano. He had to go to the backside. It was literally a back shoulder throw to the Freiermuth right there in between two converging safeties, and he zinged it in there just beautifully. The young man is growing as a quarterback.
It reminded me of Ben and Freiermuth hooking up. If you remember 2 years ago when Freiermuth first came in, Ben found chemistry with him right away with those. And it wasn't just the back shoulder. Sometimes he hit him on the front shoulder, whichever shoulder was best. And then, you know, you think, wow, Ben sure is a cagey veteran. He is accurate deep. Now Pickett did the exact same thing. Hit him on that back shoulder, just like you said, Wolf. Only place where it was safe. Yes. And Freiermuth can handle that. Freiermuth's been waiting. He really liked what was going on with Ben, and then Ben was done, right? So Freiermuth is happy to have this chemistry back.
There's no question. And as I said a couple of years ago, quite frankly, I think if you go back, or at least a year ago, I said, you know, when they talk about the top tight ends in the league, Pat's name's got to be in that group at some point, because you just watch this young man as he grows year by year. He's smart. He can read the coverages. And one of the interesting things is when you put him in the slot, he'll move out and get in the slot. He's like a slot receiver. A slot receiver has to be able to read coverage like a quarterback reads coverage, or at least read those safeties. And that's what Freiermuth does. He presents a nice target on the inside. He can beat any of the safeties between the hash marks, between the numbers, and give that quarterback a full frontal of the numbers to make him quarterback friendly. The kid I just think Pat's going to be a remarkable tight end.
And it really will help to have those two wideouts, because that's what opened up the middle is DJ. DJ was going to run him down, out, and up. And the safety had his eye on him, so Kenny looked to the middle. And the safety just about got there, but he didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember, it almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right?
Yeah. And Pickett definitely has looked precise and accurate this preseason, not just evidenced by his completion percentage, but that throw really put that on display. But a lot of other good things from the offense. How about Darnell Washington in the red zone drawing some pass interference calls? That's going to be a weapon that should be able to be utilized in the regular season.
No question. Look at Darnell Washington. And again, I got to reference Myron Cope, Mount Washington. You got to get that Washington in. But literally, think about it. You literally at some points, it's almost like you have to foul him to be able to defend him. He's that big. He can post up that much. If you create the right mismatch, it's literally a defensive back almost has to foul him to be able to have a chance at defending that pass.
Yeah, and that was definitely on display. And Connor Hayward, who we have talked about ad nauseum here on the show, also continues to contribute more of a hybrid role. But if you put him in that tight end group and say that he's a tight end, really from top to bottom, from Muth, I'm making sure I say it right, Jim, Gentry, Washington, and you throw Hayward in there with his nice touchdown reception. It's a really solid group. And I won't say the E word, the elite word, but this group could really make some noise as a collective unit.
Yeah. Go ahead, Wolf. Tight ends are good.
Tight ends are good. Love the tight ends. Gadzooks, you look at them, each one of them has some good characteristics about them, whether it's Zach Gentry. 6'12" is still 6'12". All right. Then you've got Mount Washington, and then you got the Freiermuth, and then you got yourself Connor Hayward. And we're not even talking about Hot Rod Williams. This guy here, you talk to Coach Fredo, all right, of the tight ends. This guy he calls him one of the most improved guys he's had in his room over the course of the last year. The young guy, he's a 4-5 tight end. He blocks well, comes in line, does stuff well. So that's a tight room. That's an excellent room. And it could be a room that, I don't know how you're going to make the decisions about there. There's some numbers there that might not fit, but boy, you got a room full of good guys.
Well, Hot Rod, the players, they love him. And whenever he does something well, you hear Hot Rod all over the field, all over the practice field. They love calling him Hot Rod. And I would shut him down in the last preseason game, not play him, so that nobody knows anything about him, and then try to get him back on the practice squad. Because I don't think you can keep 5 tight ends.
Yeah, I don't know how that would the numbers, like I said, but I think you're right. You would like to be able to put that guy on the practice squad or whatever you got to do to keep him around.
Yeah, definitely going to be some difficult decisions made on cut down day, which for those of you keeping track at home, that is August 29th. There's only one cut down day now, as opposed to the multiple cuts that occurred in previous years. One final thing I wanted to touch on, and not really in relation to the offense, but we did finally get to see Calvin Austin return a punt. And man, was that beautiful. 54 yards, his first opportunity to make a return. That could really be a great wrinkle in the special teams unit for the Steelers.
No question about it. Yeah. Calvin Austin III. I always wondered what it would be like to move that fast while not riding in a car. You just watch him. It's like, wow, he goes by you and you're like, that's just unbelievable to see that acceleration and the dynamics that he presents, whether it's on a go route or whether he is returning a punt or a kick of some sort. It's always that possibility of going yard. It's always there with that kind of elite speed. And you simply look at it and you go, man, that is really a dynamic you want to add to the room. And I think he's going to be what he's capable of doing is going to be complementary to the likes of both DJ and Pickens. I think there's a good mix there of guys.
It's going to be hard to determine who's on the field. That's why, people talking about, hey, play Warren and Harris in the same backfield. Who are you taking out? Are you going to take out Washington? You're going to take out Calvin. I mean, you got to get these guys on the field. The best thing I like about Calvin Austin is that the Ravens were all set to take him with the very next pick.
There's nothing like snatching one from the Ravens, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Especially a guy who runs a 4.3, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So we covered the offense, hit a little bit on special teams. Let's shift over to the defensive side of the football. And instead of being structured and going through player by player here, let's go a little free verse. Let's look at this unit as a whole. I know it's only preseason, but only gave up 3.6 yards per carry. That rush defense maybe has solidified, shored up some weaknesses from last year. But what stood out to you, gentlemen, from the performance of this defense?
Well, if I'm up, I'm sitting here and I look at the defensive line I just love the young bucks coming up. I mean, yeah, Zooks, you got yourself Braden Fajoko. You know, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If that guy he is such a plugger, he could plug any hole. If he was on the Titanic, that ship gets into port. You know, I mean, that guy could plug it. The fact is, you got yourself a Keanu Benton, who this guy is full of quick twitch, nasty. And inside the trenches, what I love about it, you got to have a little nasty. You can't be a trench fighter. You can't go in that tackle-to-tackle box without having some dynamic nasty in you, being able to flip a switch. And this young man's got it. He can club. I mean, when he throws a club, thick people in the trenches move. When you're moving thick people in the trenches, it says something about the violence of your ability to move people. I like what I see. Then you've got Isaiah Loudermilk, who I thought is just coming along just nice. He looks like he spent the offseason catching cars rolling downhill. So there's a number of things going there in the backups. And we're not even talking about Larry Ogunjobi, who hopefully now, he gets that ankle healed up or whatever. And, you know, he came with a new body. He really trained well in the offseason. He looked so good up at training camp. He and Danny Moore were two of the guys that I thought, wow, what a difference a one offseason makes. But if we get Ogunjobi back, I love the fact that you got some really good run stuffers up front. And I don't know about you, Wex, but I still can't get over how in the world you come up with a Nick Herbig out of yet another Wisconsin guy who just does some things that I just go, did I just see what I saw?
Right. I was going to mention Nick. And I tell you, Marcus Golden looked good.
Yeah.
And we know Alex Highsmith is for real. That wasn't a fluke last year.
No.
And, of course, TJ. So that entire front. And, you know, there are times they still usually Al as an outside linebacker when they really want to stuff the run. So that could be very interesting if they keep Fajoko. I'm assuming they're going to keep Fajoko. He's the strongest guy on the team.
Yeah.
And as for Benton, you know, Mike Tomlin did a rare thing in the Bob Labriola interview. He publicly praised him without being asked about Benton, praised him for how well he played and said, I can't wait. He said something like he's sitting out this week, but I can't wait till next week to move him up to the varsity. That's how we think when we work these guys. First, Nick Herbig goes against the third team, then he goes against the second team and see if he does it against the first team. And that's what Tomlin's all excited about with Benton too. So it could be real fun.
You know what I found interesting about Herbig was on a play, they ran a little flare out of the backfield. Josh Allen dumps it off to the running back. Now, Herbig is running a twist with somebody on the inside. It might have been with Wreck-It Ralph, DeMarvin Leal, because DeMarvin is another guy that, you know, we should talk about. This guy has made great progress and has shown himself to be, whether he's got his hand in the dirt or standing up, this guy can be a lethal weapon. But he's running a twist, so he's the guy behind. And as he's twisting behind, he sees that Josh Allen, and he sees the back leaking out, and he comes back out and regains outside leverage on the back to force the back into the posse coming from inside. Everybody's running from the inside, and they stop it for literally very little to no gain. On the very next series or two series from that, the Steelers run a similar play, and Greg Rousseau, who's a veteran defensive end, does virtually the same thing, caught in the middle of a twist stunt. But he stays inside, and the back, actually, that's the one where Anthony McFarland made like a 10 or 12-yard run. It was interesting to me that Herbig was able to read that play that Russo was not able to read, and they were virtually the same play. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very
Speaks to the
perceptive,
football
Wolf.
IQ of Nick Herbig is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, Wolf, I think you just gave us the title for this episode, Quick Twitch Nasty. I wrote that down.
That's like if you're sitting with me in the last donuts there, you're going to see Quick Twitch Nasty out, buddy.
That's beautiful. This is the
Boom, that donut is gone, baby.
I thought I've heard all your food jokes, Wolf.
We've hung around each other a little too long, I imagine, Jim.
Talked about the defensive front, the linebackers. Let's shift over to the back end of this defense and the performance of the secondary. Joey Porter Jr. gets his first interception, and Shandon Sullivan, I struggle with that pronunciation, and Elijah Riley also chip in with interceptions. What say you, gentlemen, about the performance of the back end of this defense?
Well, first of all, with Joey Porter, the first thing I noticed, did you see the jam that he put on that Buffalo wide receiver? Drove him out of bounds. I think when the quarterback threw the ball up, he almost pulled back on it because the guy's out of bounds. He can't come in bounds and reestablish himself, and here Joey just makes an easy pick. It was an excellent play. I love that. Then you got Sullivan with the tip ball. Wex, I'm telling you what, that was great athleticism. You'll never see a fat guy make a play like that out on the field because that's just too much athleticism, And then Elijah Riley, I love West Point guys. My son graduated West Point. Anybody that comes out of West Point, you can sit there and go, oh, man, you'll love them because those guys, as is said about West Point football players, the easiest part of their day is football practice.
I love talking to him. And he had the interception, which was not nearly as athletic as Sullivan. Sullivan looked like a TJ Watt special there.
Oh, yeah.
But he got higher. So Riley, every opportunity I get, I talk to him, and he summed up my stories for the day with his talk about teamwork. I asked him, what do you think? Is this a young team? And he said, no, I tell you, there's some old dogs that are really wise. And he went into team chemistry. And I said, is there a correlation to West Point? And he went on into that about family. And, and you keep looking this guy in the eye and you're thinking, go ahead, look away. You don't have to stare in my eye all the time, Mr. Cadet, But
right.
He's total class dude, and you want this guy to make the team. So we all loved Al Villanueva when he was here. He was a great interview. So I used to love talking to Notre Dame guys the best for whatever reason. Bettis started a great trend. And then someone told me that's how Notre Dame guys are. I'm an Army convert right now. I want them to draft more Army guys.
I agree with you. And when you see Elijah, he's made 2 open field tackles on the special teams. This guy, he gets down there and he puts a whackeration on guys. He don't know how to pop a shoot. He is a one-speed man, full steam ahead type dude. He does not back off at all. I really love watching him play.
Well, that is special teams ability is going to make the team for him. And
right.
Because I think Shandon Sullivan has slightly outplayed him, a little more athletic in the slot. And, he played with Patrick Peterson last year, and Patrick Peterson has been raving about him ever since the spring.
And let's not forget Keanu Neal.
Oh, Keanu Neal's definitely. He's a safety. He's a linebacker. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The only question I have about the secondary is whether Casey can stay healthy.
Yeah.
He's so light, but he's so reckless.
I know, and you love it. But he doinks himself. That's the problem.
Exactly. And Patrick Peterson, he gave up a couple conversions on third downs. Any concern there, Wolf?
Not for me that I can see. Again, we'll see the body of work, but Pat Pete has proven himself in football fields from here to San Francisco. I think it's just a matter of he's a veteran. He's just getting his veteran reps in. He's doing what he needs to do to stay tight. Guys know where they need to be based on where you are in the offseason, preseason, and then into the season. Guys like that, I don't worry about. The guy's going to be wearing a gold jacket at some point, most likely, and after his career is over. And certainly I got all the respect in the world for what he's put on tape thus far. He needs no, as Mike Tomlin would say, he needs no praise from me to establish what he's done already. But certainly when I watch what he's done and what he means to the young guys and that secondary, boy, that's, there's something about, I will tell you this, when I lined up for my first start, okay, I'm in between Mike Webster and John Cole, but I'm sitting there going, I don't think much of myself, but I got two great bookends, man.
Well, let me ask you quickly.
It helps when you got, guys like that sitting next to you.
Well, this came up on our message board. Has Dan Moore been, I know Dan Moore has improved, but has he been helped greatly by Siamalu playing next to him?
Well, I'll say this. You are going to be helped by a steady guy that is experienced and is well-skilled. And here's what Jason Kelce talked about. One of the smartest guys he's ever played next to. I mean, think about that. With all the evolving defenses and all the personnel groupings that are run in and out and the interchangeable numbers that can appear anytime the center's got to make a mic call, what have you, the directing of traffic and everything, to have somebody that intelligent right next to you, and to the point where a guy like Jason Kelce, such a fine center for the Eagles, was really like bummed going, I was really bummed that he left because that guy was really that good. And I think it's only going to help. I still think Kevin Dotson is a skilled ball player, but Isaac Seumalo brings another level of skill in, and certainly that's going to help a Dan Moore. There's no question.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Hit the offense, hit the defense, came back over to the offensive line. And I do want to revisit this. We talked about it briefly at the beginning of the episode. And Wex, you really kind of hit on this last week. And it's starting to, I guess, rear its head a bit more. And that's potentially, is there a controversy brewing in the Steelers' backfield? Speaking of the performance of Jaylen Warren, the 62-yard run, is there a possibility that Warren overtakes Harris as the feature back?
I think there's a possibility, but it's not going to happen for the opener. I think if they struggle, I think that Najee is the closer. I think Warren is the playmaker. I think he runs better routes. He had the best catch rate on the team last year. He's a tremendous pass blocker. Ask Landon Roberts. And we watched him run. He gives them more speed. He's a better playmaker. He's low behind the big line, and he's hard to find. And, I look at this as 2005 all over again when they decided to start Willie Parker and close with Bettis. Mm-hmm. And Willie Parker is only cousins of Jaylen Warren. So it's just too easy. It's just too easy. And I just see Najee as being a little too tall. I compared in my column. Remember when Chuck Noll didn't want Franco, he wanted Robert Newhouse, his little bowling ball built like Jaylen Warren. He said he doesn't like tall running backs. There's too much target area to tackle. But Franco was a freak in that he could cut at full speed. And at times he could do the small guy things. I think we're seeing with Najee, Chuck Noll's vision coming true with this one. He was wrong about Franco. He got talked into drafting Franco. They did the right thing. He gave Art Rooney Jr. credit for being right about this when he wanted Robert Newhouse. But I think we're seeing what Chuck Noll was talking about. I don't see Najee as being that playmaker. And I don't see, especially in this day and age, running your tall, big guy into the line for 2-3 yards on first down every time. I think it changes the entire philosophy. But Warren is still a tough inside runner as well. and again, the Kansas City Chiefs, they knocked they took their first round pick out of the lineup to play a 7th round pick last year, and they won a Super Bowl. Well, Chiefs wouldn't be messing around with this. Chiefs take the playmaker. The playmaker's got to play. You get another playmaker on your field. I'm done.
and well spoken and everything else. Yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I still think that Najee has not yet evolved into the back that he can be. I think the problem last year had to do with the foot. You get a metal shoe in your foot, in your shoe. It's not going to give you the same ability to cut, to explode, and do the things and show some of the attributes. Now, later on, yes, after the bye, things came together much better, and he still has been very, very productive. I look at this as being kind of the year where we're going to see, the pressure's on him somewhat, but the guy is excellent at blocking. He still runs, catches the ball very well. He can still put his shoulder down and go after it for a couple of yards. Last year, he had a 36-yard run, and no, it wasn't the same as a 62, but the 62 was in preseason, and Warren only had a 31-yarder last year, if I recall. I could be totally wrong. The point being is, hey, I still want to give Najee, I want to see if this horse comes together with this line, with this ability right now in this highfalutin offense. But you're right, Jaylen Warren is making his case. This is not about, I don't look at this as Najee failing. I look at this as Jaylen establishing there's a niche for me. I got reps. Let me have my reps.
It's Najee has a big personality, and I am sure the coach would be worried about him being the second team, him being the closer. If they could convince him that that's a valuable role to close out games, to short yardage, goal line, things like that. But I don't want to say he has a big ego. It's just a big personality. And I don't know that he would take a demotion well. And Jaylen Warren, rushed for 3,000 yards in big school Utah in 1 year, 3,000 yards, and didn't get one single offer, not one offer, a Division II and a Division III. So he went to junior college. He's had to prove himself his entire life. He has the demeanor to be the second teamer. It's easier psychologically on the team. The pressure's on Mike Tomlin, too. If he doesn't make the right move, the team knows who gives them playmaking ability.
Point.
If Najee's going to have to show it right away, or it could get ugly.
Well, let's just say this. I'm looking forward to it, how it revealing itself. You know what I mean? We'll see. It's the same thing that people talked about, the battle at left tackle. And I kept saying, let them compete. Hey, let them compete. Competition is the best equalizer in sports. And let the people compete at it.
And the preseason in camp showed that Dan Moore deserves to be the left tackle. Just as preseason in camp showed that I watched Najee get 1, 2, 3 yards every run in practice. They talk about how he is being limited in preseason games, but not in practice. He's running first team all the time. No contact. That first day with the no contact, Warren broke one for 60. Nobody wrote about it. Najee got his 1, his 2, his 3. The first down, the defense was hungry for him. They wanted him. They knew he was getting it on first down. They know Tomlin's agenda on contact day. It's going to the running back. So in fairness, Najee had no chance. Jaylen Warren still broke a long one. It's what he does. And I don't know that you can just give it 1, 2, 3 games when I think it's already presented itself. It's already made itself, to me, it's made itself clear. And I don't know that you can just give one game away by running the old school bet us on first down offense.
Yeah.
I always go back to the old saying by who was it? It was Dishman, Chris Dishman, that was Hines Ward was blocking Dishman, if you remember back in the day. And it was the second half, and they were running Bussy, and he's the closer. And I remember Hines telling me, he goes, yeah, Dishman was like telling Hines Ward, ease up. I'm in no hurry to go over and get in front of Bussy. Those were the halcyon days, were they not, of when it was really great to close out a game with a powerful running game.
Yeah. Well, the competition, I'm sure, will pay dividends either way, whether it's for Warren taking over that role or to motivate Harris to perform at a higher level. We're going to get to see all that unfold. Again, final preseason game coming up here on Thursday, the home opener, September 10th against the Niners. And that's going to do it for episode number 73, the quick twitch nasty episode. Jim, Wolf, thank you guys so much. Okay. Wolf, anything you want to plug?
I'll tell you what, Wolf, it was great to have you on for episode 73.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
Everybody hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave us a comment. Check out Jim's work at the Still City Insider. Give him a follow at Jim Wexel on Twitter, and give me a follow at Still Study. And we will see you back here for episode number 74 of the Still City Insider podcast. Thanks so much, everyone.